So why am I so passionate about this? Well, we spend so much of our damn time at work. 90,000 hours I found on Google. There's loads of conflicting amounts of hours. I went with this one. That's close to a third of our lives, depending on how long we live. And what's more is that over a third of our lives is taken up by sleeping. So we're either sleeping or working. I don't know what we're doing with the rest of that time. We'll probably be sleeping as well. But wouldn't it be great if that third of our life, if we were able to enjoy it more often, if it was fun more often, if it was empowering and inspiring more often? I truly believe that it should be seen as a human right to be respected, supported, and fulfilled and valued at work. And after all, we all want to work for great companies and within great cultures, right? Yes. Yes. I love the powerful yes there. I'm that person in a crowd. Be more that person. I love that. Now, all of us here know that great experiences don't happen by chance. They happen by design, right? We're all agreed on this, I think, in this room today. Well, the same is true of culture. Culture is no different. And so what I want to talk to you about today is the link between design and culture, and crucially how you can use all of your incredible skills to improve the cultures that you're working in, whether you're a researcher, a service designer, graphic designer, developer, or anything else within the kind of digital spectrum. But before I do that, how did I end up here? Talking about culture and telling companies how to design their employee experience. I love this. This is one of my favourite gifts. I've never used it before, but it's finding a moment to use this gift. Unrivaled joy. So I'm going to do something that I've never actually done in a talk before. I'm going to talk a bit about my career journey. And that started a million miles from the field that I'm in today. It started on a graduate scheme for a nationwide bank. It started here. There I am, fresh out of uni, back in 2012. If you don't know which one I am, look at the state of it. What a bunch of losers, right? We did this as a joke, but honestly, the joke is on us. Like, it's giving Apprentice, but you're going to get voted out in the first episode, right? Like, that's what that's giving. Wow. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. This actually had very little to do with the story I'm about to tell. I just found it quite funny. I remember this picture, and I was like, I wonder where that picture is. So I thought I'd bring it in and hopefully make you all laugh, so I nailed that. But seriously, if anyone has taken a photo of this and put it on socials, I'll hunt you down. Sorry. Your phone is away, you know. Anyway, the point is, there is a point. I didn't start out in design, and I didn't start out in culture. But thankfully, through a stint in the bank's digital strategy team, I ended up in the design team, where I was responsible for the user experience of the NatWest and RBS banking app. So there I am there. This is me, surrounded by Post-its, lying on fake grass, because that was like the dumb thing back then. So we were like, yeah, let's get fake grass, it'll feel like an office. Wild. So this is where I learn everything I know about service design, design thinking, user research, and I have to tell you, I just fell in love with it. I knew I'd found something that I wanted to stick at, and I was like, I think I can be pretty good at this. And this, I guess what came before this was a really long time of being like, holy shit, I'm a terrible adult. Like, I can't do any jobs that I've ever done. So it's the first time I actually felt a connection to the work that I was doing. What I didn't love though was the culture that I was working within. So I was part of an incredible small team. We supported each other, we had each other's back, but the culture as a whole in the bank at the time, I didn't feel like I fitted into that. I didn't feel comfortable. I didn't go through anything. I mean, actually, there's probably a couple of stories, but that's another talk, or talk to me later of networking. But it wasn't anything like massively traumatic. It just wasn't. I just didn't feel like I belonged there. Then came along what I call my proper design job. I was approached by a newly formed design agency called Spark with the dream of growing something amazing. So I jumped in head first. I was employee number 3, and that's where I found something that I'd never felt before. I had a passion for my work and what I did, and a sense of belonging. I found my people, and I can't tell you how wonderful that felt. And I think it goes broader than just the workplace. So if I look back at my school experience, I didn't feel like I really fit in there. Sometimes within my family, I didn't feel like I always fit in. So finally having that moment where I was like, whoo, I feel like I belong here. I feel like these are my people. It was an incredible, incredible moment for me. And I was able to help grow this thing. And we grew and we grew and we grew. And with more and more people that were all so different, had really different experiences, different backgrounds, but we were connected over our shared values and our kind of shared beliefs for what we wanted to see as the future of the business. So I became obsessed with making sure that everyone else that joined us had that same feeling of belonging that I did. So I started picking up internal projects like designing our onboarding approach. And I thought, well, I'll do this the same way as I do any of our client projects. And that's when it started to click for me. That we could use design to improve our company culture and to make our culture more tangible. And I was sold. Honestly, I was like, wow, this is like stars at the line, something amazing has happened for me. So when we became big enough as an organisation that we needed a leadership team, I made it damn well clear that we needed a head of culture, and I made it even clearer that that person was me. I was like, hi, you need this role, by the way, I am that role. So luckily I was very convincing on that occasion. Yay, me. So I kind of made up this role. I'm actually sure it existed, but at the time it didn't exist for me. I was used to HR managers or HR business partners. I'd never heard of head of culture before. Thankfully, it is becoming much more common to hear that as a title, which has shown how far we've come. So I was like, this role, we had, like, our parent company had a traditional HR team. I was like, I'm not doing any of that. I am going to use design to improve our culture and to design our employee experience. Like, that's it. And I did collaborate with our parent company's HR team, and it was incredible because they have such important skills: policy, legal, processes, and I had the design and the empathy and the user-centered focus to make those two things come together. And so we use the exact same approach to designing services and products to design our internal experience. So we went out to our users, the employees, and we discovered where they were at. We used that information to define what is the problem that we're trying to solve and where do we want to be. We then went broad again and started to design solutions and ideas to the problems that we identified within our culture. And then we started to develop plans and prototypes and actually test things to solve the problems or meet the needs that we'd identified. And if they worked, if we got good feedback, we embedded them into the business and made them stick. So we looked at all of the moments that matter within the organisation and started to map them out just like a customer journey. And we applied our human-centered design skills to design everything from our hiring process, how we onboard people, our career framework, our values, our culture handbook, so that they went further than words on a page, even our approach to well-being within the organisation. Basically, everything that came up as we were a growing company, we designed for it. And the end result was a culture that made people stay. We had a culture that people wanted to be a part of, so people would come to our interviews and say, I've heard about your culture, I want to join because of that, and it continues to be something that the company is very proud of. But here's the thing, when you work in an agency where everyone is a consultant, obviously I was a consultant or a designer before I had the head of culture role, there is always a tension between the internal work and the client work that's coming in. So basically I just got sick of being put on client projects that I didn't really love so much anymore, and I was like, I want to do culture initiatives full time, and that's part of the story of how the Future Kind Collective came to be. So this cute little pic is when Alicia and I first bought the domain name for the Future Kind Collective. And that was exactly a year before we finally left and started the thing. What's quite funny is that we got so drunk after this. We saw buying a domain name as like one of the biggest milestones of our business. Bear in mind, this business wasn't even incorporated. Like, there was nothing behind it, but we had the domain name. So we were absolutely hammered, and thankfully there's no pictures of that. Are you joking? No, there's not. I'm not going to show you. So what have I learned from this journey? I've learned that human-centered design skills are crucial to create great cultures. I've learned that everyone, and I mean everyone, has the responsibility, is responsible for culture, not just people teams and not just leadership teams. And finally, we all have the power to change the environment that we work in and to influence the cultures that we're working within. And so these are the points that I want to focus on for the remainder of my talk. So learning one. Now I just want to make it super clear that I'm not talking about displacing traditional HR. Love traditional HR, and I've already mentioned actually such an important role within an organisation. They tend to be skill sets that are focused in policy and rigour and process and legal. And I think it's unreasonable to expect the exact same people who have been taught those things to suddenly pick up experience design and to turn their hand at it without proper training and support. And that's what a lot of companies are doing. I speak to HR managers all the time, and they're like, I've been doing this for 20 years, but I've never really done this like culture stuff or this employee experience stuff. I don't know where to start. And it's making people feel like they're not good enough in their roles, but actually I think it's an unrealistic expectation. So what I want to see more of is HR professionals and designers working together. And I think that crossover of skill sets and how we can teach each other different skill sets, that's where we create really engaging employee experiences that are supported by processes and policy. And that's basically service design, right? Design the front stage customer experience so it delights your users and that it delights your customers. But let's also make sure that the backstage and behind the scenes, the systems, processes, people support that incredible front stage experience. And that's exactly what we get when we bring HR and design together. So I don't know if you can see this that well, but this is we call this our Moments That Matter manual for our clients. It's actually much longer than this. But it's like those key moments, like delighting moments that you have within an employee experience. Imagine if we looked at each of these moments and considered how we made them the best possible experience based on the needs of those who are impacted by them. And actually that our ambition was to delight and inspire them rather than just to manage these processes. Or even like, what if our goal was to get our users or employees in this case to shout about how great this process is. It's basically we would be creating user-generated content for our employer brand. Now there are so many great HR leads that are doing this, but imagine how much further we could go if HR and design were brought together. So next time you spot a problem in your team or your ways of working, consider how you can do a bit of this, even in a light touch way, to resolve those problems. Learning number 2, everyone is responsible for culture. I learned this the hard way. So when I was head of culture at the agency, I really believed that I was like solely responsible for everyone enjoying their experience at work, which included their well-being, by the way. I kind of lost my mind. And that came at a cost. Like, I burnt out pretty badly. And I would absorb the emotions and the experiences of those within the team and take it as like my responsibility to kind of deal with all of those. And actually it wasn't. Actually I needed to ask for help. Actually, rather than, just pointing out problems and problems and problems, I needed to collaborate to solve some of those problems with the people that needed it solving. And when we look at the definition of culture, culture is a social contract between a group of people with a shared goal that defines how they will behave in order to be successful. Now, a social contract is something that's agreed upon through consensus. It's not something that you're told to agree to. It involves your behaviours and how you act. So we have to do this as a shared activity rather than it being a kind of top-down only activity. And when we look at everything that goes into your culture, so we've got your purpose, your mission, your values, of course these can be set by leadership team with help from people team. But when you look at the elements that actually create your culture, behaviours, interactions, rituals, so how we gather, how we get together, how we collaborate, even our processes or our workflows, we can't be told all of those things. We all have a responsibility. We control our behaviours, right? So, and how we interact. So if we want a certain culture, I think the more that it's a shared responsibility, the more likely we are to realise that culture and actually experience it. And so my final learning, we all have the power to change the environment that we work in. So I wanted to bring in a quote from my friend Lauren, who said, she actually said it to me before when trying to get me to stay in my lane. She said, "We spend far too much time and energy on the things we can't control. Imagine how much your impact would shift if you focus solely within your circles of influence." So if we want to make change, we need to get clear on what our circles of influence are and focus our time and energy there. And I find this such a powerful and empowering reminder to myself, and I hope you find some of that as well. And here's what I mean by this. So this is inspired by a Stephen Covey book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And it's a way to compartmentalize different thoughts and areas of your life and prioritize your actions by what you can directly control and influence. So that's where our energy is best spent. So let's bring this to life a little. Things that you can control. We can control our actions, we can control our words, our choices, even the designs that we decide to put in front of customers or our clients. And those things can influence the end user experience, and it can also influence the team dynamics and the culture that we create. But employers, governments, the economy, the weather, these all go in that third layer. They're out of our control. And more often than not, there's something that we have to accept. So I find that when the world gets overwhelming, like it often does, when we're trying to create more inclusive experiences and cultures, I like to remember my circles of influence and kind of ground myself there. And here's the thing about our circle of influence. Small changes can have a big impact. I really love the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. He talks about how if you get 1% better at something every day, you'll end up 37 times better by the time you'll have done at the end of that year, due to the power of compound interest. So small changes do matter. Small changes can make a big impact. And in the culture space, we often talk about what's our culture hacks that we could do to make a small incremental change within our team. So really, the point I wanted to kind of make with this talk is be the change that you want to see. But more specifically, I would love for us all to try to be the culture that you want to see and see how that impacts our experience at work. That's my last point. I've done it a lot quicker. Thank you so much for listening. I really do. I really hope that you're inspired to use your skills to improve your ways of working with clients or with the teams that you work in. And just lastly, if you did want to connect or you wanted to chat, I hang out on LinkedIn a lot. I'd love to meet you there and meet you later as well. And these are our Instagram handles and our website. We recently relaunched our website. It's stunning, if I do say so. So check it out. You're all designers, actually. I would love your feedback. Let me know what you think. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It completely surprised me when you first. Any questions?
Hi. So I've worked in good cultures. I've also worked in bad cultures. And I'm somewhat sceptical that design could change the bad ones that I worked in. I'm a designer. And I wonder if that's mainly because the cultures were in companies that were run by dickheads. So my question is, how do you win over the dickheads?
Yeah.
So I've been asked to repeat the question. So you've worked in good companies and bad. You're not sure you've managed to fix it because dickheads.
Yeah, it's a really good question and it's an important question. So thank you for asking it. There are some teams and companies that are kind of beyond saving, and I'm just saying it how it is. Like that is the truth. And actually, we at the Future Kind Collective are really choosy about who we work with. So we don't work with toxic cultures. What's the point? Like, you don't believe in what we're doing, so why are we gonna, try and turn that around? Because it is usually led by leadership, and if leadership aren't brought into culture change, then that isn't going to make an impact. And there's a phrase that I often come back to of I can't remember the exact phrase, but anyway, I'll paraphrase it. So it's the idea of, they're sometimes called like bad apples, but I quite like the language of brilliant jerks. So the people in your company who, I don't know, they like sell loads, they bring loads of money in, but they're absolute dickheads to work with. They're a nightmare to work with. But if the leadership let that person stay, that is like say goodbye to your culture. Because what happens in those scenarios is that you start to create cultural debt. So cultural debt is created every time a bad behaviour, a behaviour that undermines the culture that you're trying to create, is let go. Because that tells everyone else that you actually don't care about these things, and that your values or what you say your culture is just kind of a veil, it's just words. So kind of coming back to your question, I think you have to really question whether the right people are on the bus, if you like. Like so part of the process, right, is getting the data, doing the research, presenting a case to leadership about things that need to change if it's more significant changes that need their buy-in. But if there's that constant pushback, then I could have asked whether that's in the cultural context. I don't necessarily think this in like designing products and services. In the cultural context, is it worth your time and energy to stay in that company when you could go somewhere else that is going to treat you, respect you, and create that culture for you? So I would actually encourage people to move a hell of a lot more often if you have bad managers, because it does come from the top. But if you have a great manager who is invested in culture but doesn't really know where to start, then that's a great opportunity to use our skills and to work together. But I do think we have to, like, often people aren't going to change. And I currently am not in the business of making that change, because I think that change will come. Like, this is the thing with culture. Everyone's like, yeah, culture's important, like, whatever. There are people invested in it, and those companies are going to be significantly more successful than the ones that don't. So the leaders that are like toxic now, that don't want to change, they will be forced to change, or they'll see their businesses cease to exist. So I'm kind of like, I'll play the long game. So that's my answer to that. Does that answer your question? Do you have any follow-ups? So I appreciate I went on a journey there.
Yeah. What it got me thinking about was, like, I guess some of it is in this industry, especially, kind of are equipped with the privilege to be able to maybe leave these cultures.
Yeah.
And, there are people in the world that are, locked into jobs that they can't necessarily get out.
Yeah.
It's easier. And really, that is the doing to change. So, I guess, let's hope the long game works, but it's those people that make them think,
Yeah. No, I totally get that, and I, like that totally valid response. That's quite a compassionate answer that I just gave. But I do genuinely believe that the tide is changing, and it is going to be it's going to be really hard for those people to hire, because people talk about those bad companies, and there's so many companies that already have black marks on them that we are seeing that shift for. I think it will take a long time, but I do think it will happen. And I think unfortunately, some change kind of has to happen that way. But yeah, hopefully it's not as long as I'm maybe making out. Thank you. Hi. Oh, there's a few. I looked at you first. Keep me in your eyes. So, yeah. Oh, okay, cool.
So, I think, like, for me, anecdotally, culture companies have been a smaller ones that I've worked for. Some companies get bigger, that culture kind of seems to get lost because people have less face time or business contact with, the business, and that reinforces the middle management. Do you believe that it's possible to have a good culture in a large corporation?
Yeah, so I'm going to repeat the question. The question, or the comment, was that it sometimes appears to be easier to have a good culture in smaller companies, and when companies grow, culture starts to become a problem. Do I think that corporate teams can have good cultures? Have I summarised that right? Yeah. Perfect. Yes, I do. I think that the trick is to start working on your culture as early as possible, and that can be quite tricky, especially when there's so much pressure to do everything else, product launches, marketing campaigns, all of this stuff. So I think the earlier we define our culture and we talk about what does that mean about how we interact with each other, and we're really clear on what behaviours we celebrate, which ones we don't tolerate, that kind of sets the foundation for you to start to bring through the business. I think when you get to a point where you do need to start bringing processes and policies and more structure into the business, I think doing that through the lens of your culture and whether the technology or the process actually supports that, or does it undermine some of your values and interactions, is really important. And then I think when you're at that kind of bigger corporate level, I think it's about understanding both what the kind of holistic purpose, vision, values are, but then also being mindful of the fact that there are going to be subcultures within your organisation, and there's going to be different things that are important for different people. And rather than shying away from that, kind of giving language to that, giving voice to that, and saying, okay, well, our finance team is probably a bit more risk averse than our marketing team, but like, let's celebrate those differences. And I guess, I could go on for ages on this one, but I think that the main thing is about having structures that support the culture that you're trying to create, rather than just being like, this is the most cost effective, or like, I know this other guy that did use this platform, so let's use that. Like, doing it through the lens of intention and being intentional about it, and then also intentional about how and when you bring people together and you get that kind of shared learning, collaboration across large teams, I think is really important as well. So I think it's possible, it's just very hard. Thanks.
I think there was someone over here next.
So in the 2 years I've worked at my company, I've seen probably 3 or 4 different iterations of people, committees, culture hubs that have a couple of meetings and then they fizzle out. And it seems like people don't really care, besides the ones who are signing up for these meetings. So coming from a junior perspective, is there any effective way to sort of inspire the attitude of culture change from the bottom up?
Yeah, so that's a really classic example, by the way. It's definitely not only your company, and I think the reason that these things spin up and like close or like cease to exist so quickly is that they're actually not given any autonomy or kind of any kind of decision-making power to really make change. Like if you need to go through loads of approvals but then no one cares about it, then that's like, why are you going to bother? So I don't necessarily think it's a lack of care, but it's a lack of support and a lack of motivation when you keep kind of hitting those hurdles. I think that a lot of junior teams are really great at creating culture, they just don't realise that they're doing it. So if you've ever worked on a graduate scheme, and you know, some of my best friends even today are from that awful picture, or one of them is best friends. So often junior employees are really good at making connections because they connect with each other and they need to support each other because they're all kind of figuring it out at the same time. So there's like safety and belonging within that. So I'm always curious about what are the small things that you can do without budget, without how can you hack it? How can you do something under the radar, try something out, prove that it works, and then go back to your leadership team and say, hey, we've been trying this thing, this is how it's worked out, and this is why we think it should be something that we invest in. So I think that proof point is always really powerful, and as I say, I do think, I always look at junior teams now that I'm much older and I'm got FOMO because they seem to be having so much fun. So I think how can we use that passion? And I think if you're a manager but maybe not the person who signs something off, you can kind of encourage that behaviour by role modelling it as well. So, okay, here's a problem in our team, or here's something I've heard that you're really frustrated about. Let's get together and figure out some ideas to improve this, given our constraints, whether that's budget, time, and all that good stuff. So, yeah, I get it's like the prototyping mindset. Just do it and ask for forgiveness later. That's not the best advice, I'm not. Don't come after me.
Yeah, a couple more that the transcribers definitely can't hear the questions.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't repeat that question.
It's all right. It's hard to get used to. I think maybe
My question is about sustainability in culture changes. So I think it's really easy to identify Facebook over existing change. But what about the challenge of a team that is open to be able to change and setting culture that will not just work for the dynamic that exists today, but the dynamic that could exist in the future? What tools do you give them to keep a positive culture throughout their growth?
Yeah, so the question was about the sustainability of culture and how you can evolve it essentially whilst you're growing, rather than it being a static thing. Is that a fair summary?
So you can go into an organisation that needs cultural change and make it work for them as they look at today.
Yeah.
But as they scale and grow, if there's a change, different types of people acting on what sort of tools do you need them to enable them to maintain that good culture across for everyone, not just the ones that were there at the time of COVID?
Yeah. So just to build on that question, how do you make sure that, so you set a culture for the team as it is today, how do you make sure it's still relevant as the team grows and changes? So I love that question because it touches on something that's really important with regards to culture. Culture isn't a destination, it's a journey. it's constantly evolving, and we have to make the time to constantly evolve it as well. So in the same way that our teams would have, or design teams will have project retrospectives and quarterly reviews and all of that kind of stuff, we give our clients the tools to be able to continually review their culture. Now, I know a lot of companies do that on like a yearly basis. I think you need to do it much more. Quarterly works really well. You don't necessarily have to send out a massive survey every time, but literally getting people in a room, whether it's a virtual room or a physical room, talking about, okay, what have we loved this last quarter with regards to our culture? What have we learned? What have we lacked? What have we longed for? So things like asking questions like that, what's held us back? What's propelled us forward? Specifically in the context of the culture is really important. I also think it's really important to, when you put new culture things in place, so let's say you have put in a new feedback system. A lot of the time what happens is that they put it in and it was such a massive change to get it in the first place, God forbid you ever need to change it. And I think that's the wrong approach. Like, you would have put a product or a service out there and never looked to update it or improve the features or just make it more modern. So in the same way that we put systems to help our culture, even stuff like you might put some things on Slack or whatever to help people recognize each other. We need to constantly review them as well and say, are they still working for our team, the dynamics in our team, the needs and preferences in our team, and are they still working for the size of our team as well? So I think the main thing is the retrospective, looking at culture quarterly, asking for feedback constantly from your teams, and then also looking at the tools they use as well.
We just about have time for one more. We're swapping over in 2 minutes. Yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, hi.
I work for a government department and we're all predominantly home-based. So what are the challenges of the maintaining, growing, evolving, changing a culture when it's mostly home-based working and there's not that much face-to-face hanging?
Yeah, okay, the question, sorry, I was going to forget about that. The question is, how do you maintain and evolve culture when everyone's at home? So virtually, yeah. I believe that all cultures should be designed as remote first, even if you have offices, because it's the most inclusive and accessible way to design culture. Because if you're only designing culture that's based in the office, then you're excluding a lot of people that might not be able to come to the office all the time. So I actually don't see that as a hindrance for you. That's the reason I'm giving that context. Because if we actually look at building culture from a purely remote virtual setting, we actually start to think about it in a different way. I think practically, looking at how we schedule meetings and how we, when we ask people to be working synchronously versus asynchronously is really important. And I think that we really have to be choosy about when we're asking people to be online, because it's really important to build in virtual moments that are just about connection, that are just about getting to know each other. But that's a horrible thing, or a horrifying thing to say to people when you've already got back-to-back meetings all day. So I think that one of the biggest changes we need to see in remote working is a completely different look at how we do meetings. And also, I think we can learn so much from companies that are purely virtual and who embrace this idea of synchronous versus asynchronous working. What meetings can we just make an update on Teams or Slack? Do we have to all be together for a stand-up? Can we just tell each other what we're doing today, and do we have any blockers? And then we can use the time that we come together for actual connection and collaboration and brainstorming. So yeah, thinking about our meetings and why we bring each other together. Great book, by the way, for that, The Art of Gathering by Priya Parker. One of the best books ever. Thank you.